Mr. and Mrs. North and South American, all ships at sea, let's go to...
The Bitchspot Report. Welcome to the Bitchspot Report, the conservative atheist podcast that's not afraid to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Every week, your hosts, Cephus and Mike, will take on the latest religious and political news and examine the world around us from a distinctly conservative and skeptical perspective. Join us now for this episode of the Bitchspot Report. Hello and welcome to the Bitchspot Report, the only podcast that I'm aware of that successfully marries atheism and conservatism in one convenient package. I'm your host, Cephus, and here's my co-host, Mike.
Hello.
So how's it going this week? Other than insanely busy as always.
Yes, not bad, except I'm beginning to doubt my atheism here a little bit. I think there may be a God.
Okay, why?
I just saw that Broken Lizard is going to put out, or getting ready to start filming Super Troopers 2.
I don't think that would be evidence of a god. Maybe the other way, but
Well, close. now if they do what they promised us in Potfest, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna have to abandon all this. There's got to be a god then.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, you just keep me up to date on that and let me know. I'll go looking for somebody else.
No problem. I'm pretty sure that ain't gonna happen. So.
Yeah, very, very likely.
But yeah, I'm just glad to hear that they're going to do a Super Troopers 2. I'm a big fan of those guys.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing the kind of crap that comes out. I mean, are they actually doing it theatrically, or are they doing it straight to DVD, or what?
I haven't heard. I know that they just finally, they've got a script. They got through their legal issues, and they're planning in the fall to start filming.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep. So it's cool.
Stranger things have happened.
Yes.
You know, I mean, after all, hey, Ray Comfort got his video financed, so pretty much anybody could, I guess.
Probably.
I've actually noticed over the past week or so how many stories that we've been doing that have to do with the abject failure of religion. You know, I was looking through all of the old podcasts, and it seems like just about every week, at least one story we do has to do with religion losing members, people walking away from religion, you know, etc. I mean, I know I'm not specifically looking for stories like that, are you?
Not really. That just seems to be what pops up. I mean, I've set up a couple Google searches and stuff like that, and that seems to be what seems to be popping up quite a bit, besides the abortion thing in Ireland, those type of stories, or people getting killed, having their hands cut off in, whatever country. I think Cognitive Dissonance talked about a husband that his wife going to school and having whatever it was and had her hands cut off.
Yeah.
It's either it's going to be that type of story, and I think we covered a few of those, right?
Oh yeah, we have.
And then it's always these, it always seems to be these, these churches imploding on themselves and pissing off their congregants and just coming apart.
Yeah, well, I mean, I looked, and we have another 2 stories this week that fall into that category. I'm just shocked at how fast religion is exploding.
Well, I saw an article today. I probably won't talk about it too much or submit it for the show, but there's a guy predicting that religion will become obsolete by 2041. And I'm like, well, I read the article and there seems to be some contradictions there. So, not great, but this is a biopsychologist, I think. The guy, I don't have the names or whatever. And I'm like, okay, this sounds like a weird story to put up on a website type thing. So I don't know, but this guy is predicting, religion become irrelevant in, 2041, mostly because, and I guess his premise is that, and this is happening in the Western countries, and those more affluent people who have more money are finding religion less relevant.
Right. And actually, we're going to handle that in our first news story. That's a lot of what that's about. 5 years ago, I never would have imagined what we're seeing today. I mean, I was figuring religion's going to be around for generations to come, and maybe someday, my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren might see the end of organized religion, or at least the end of its social, political importance. It might happen. Yeah, I mean,
2041, I'll be 80 years old.
We'll be around. Yeah.
So, I think it's great.
I think it's amazing. It's like it's gotten to a tipping point, and then, religion is just going down the hill nonstop. It's amazing to me that I never would have predicted this.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I'm of the belief that religion's just going to die out on its own, and it's going to take a while, because there's always going to be the diehards, the Ray Comforts, who are going to try to, keep things afloat, mainly because he has to, or he doesn't make any money. And, it would just slowly die out. But, we're seeing bigger numbers than, we've seen in the past. So
we're seeing huge numbers.
Yeah. Now, I'm hoping that this isn't, I think I've talked about it before also, that these people aren't moving into other New Agey or some type of, kind of replacement religion, like some of the cults, like in the 60s and 70s that popped up, moving from their traditional religion into maybe a non-traditional, or whatever. And, the numbers are dying, but they're still not giving up that, belief in this invisible spirit thing.
Yeah, well, no, in the first story we do, we're going to go right into that.
Right.
So we probably should just go right there so we can continue the discussion.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Okay, and now for the news. And now the news. We keep talking about religion falling apart. We cite study after study where Baptists are hemorrhaging members, or the Catholics are closing religious schools, that more and more Americans are coming out as non-religious with every single poll. Well, here we go again. According to a new study by the Public Religion Research Institute, Americans that claim to be religious don't even agree on what the term means. Nearly 60% of Americans who identify as religious don't think faith or belief in gods has anything to do with it. They say that religion is about living a good life and doing the right thing. Only 36% think that religion has to do with faith or believing in the correct deity. Today, an estimated 84% of Americans claim to have religious beliefs. But judging by this new information, does this mean that in reality, just over 30% are actually religious? What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I honestly wonder what's really going on here. Are people just kind of coming to a realization, whatever that might be, and saying, hey, religion is irrelevant in my life, type of thing? That's the only thing I can think of right now.
Yeah. Well, but I think it's funny for, how many of our fundamentalists claim that this is a Christian country. We're now finding it's hardly even a religious country.
Yeah.
30% of the population even really takes it seriously. And if this is what's true in the U.S., how bad is it when you look at, like, Europe, where religiosity is at all-time lows? Maybe they're at, like, 8%. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of wondering. Because like that, I was talking about that article, that people that see, it seems like, and this sounds like it's true in Europe, that people are happy, they've got jobs, they're happy with their lives. Religion doesn't really fit into it anymore.
Yeah, there's no point to religion. Unfortunately, I think America is going to end up being like the last one to reality, where where there's a bunch of people pretending to be religious even if they aren't, because it's a social thing, not a faith thing.
Right.
Oh
yeah, definitely. There will be those diehards. The Pat Robertson types, the Ray Comfort type. They depend on the gullibility of us to send them money to keep them in, limousines and mansions. And I think once I want to say the old school religion types start fading away, then we'll start seeing some major changes here, at least here in the United States. Over in Europe, it seems like they've already gone over that hump and starting to realize, religion isn't doing anything for me. They're just,
Right. Well, I think if you look at the study, the best thing about it is the more fundamentalist you are religiously, the older you tend to be. And all the people coming up, they're all the either super liberal theists or they're atheists. So we just have to wait for all these people to drop dead, and there really aren't that many people replacing them.
Yes.
So you're going to start seeing all of these religions just dying. You know, the evangelical religions, the fundamentalist religions, and then you're just going to be left with things like the Catholic Church, which they don't even take it seriously, really.
Yeah, and of course they're imploding on their own, but and who knows? I mean, who knows what will shake out after that? You know, I mean, I think at some point that's got to implode at some point. So
yeah, well, I was looking at a poll where they were trying to figure out, you know, which religion was going to be the last one to fall as far as the gay marriage thing. You know, which one was going to be the last one to finally give up and accept gay marriage. And the general consensus is all religion will just implode entirely and there will be no more religion to even worry about it. Which is a good thing.
yeah,
Like I said, I'm just really, really surprised at how fast this is happening. And it seems like even since we started doing this podcast, it's gotten faster.
hey, maybe we're having an effect.
Yeah, I kind of doubt it, but
It's nice to believe, I guess.
Sure. Yes,
but,
we ended religion in America. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, send your checks too.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to be one of the nails. That's all.
I'm cool with being a nail.
So.
And then when we get all the fundamentalists, I can be a hammer too.
Right. So it's good to see that, you know, reason. Now I'm hoping reasons is driving this also. I'm really concerned about, again, people switching from, you know, the traditional religions, because, I mean, some of the stuff I've read, you know, some of the articles and what people keep talking about, like, they don't even have a clue to what the religion really is, or what religion really is, or what the particular religion really is. So they don't see things like, well, they've given up Catholicism for, Buddhism, or they've given up this for something, I don't know what's some of the current, new agey, you know, cult type stuff. Because that was one of the big things during the 60s. Many of the kids were abandoning the establishment, their parents, you know, that structure, you know, that church on Sunday, you know, all that kind of stuff. They shucked that all off. What they'd ended up finding were guys like Charlie Manson and, you know, Jim Jones and David Koresh, and they congregate around these guys, and you see what happens there. And there's probably even lesser, you know, probably not as violent as those guys were, but definitely, you know, like the Hare Krishnas got a big boost out of, you know, out of the 60 hippie dropout, tune out type, you know, that period. So I'm hoping that that's not what's really happening. Of course, the pollsters don't recognize Joe Blow over here in his Heaven's Gate type cult as a religion, you know, so they don't get counted. They get counted as being non-religious. I mean, that's my only real concern at this point is.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what this poll shows. I mean, this study says that the majority of people don't take faith or belief in a God seriously. And that doesn't just mean a traditional God. That means any God. You know, they just think being religious means I'm a good person and I do good things. Which, of course, you don't have to be religious to do.
True. I think a lot of times they don't really recognize, you know, they're following a guru. They don't view these cults as a religion. They view them as just a group of people who do goofy things and howl at the moon and dance naked at night, or whatever the thing that they do, but they don't recognize it as a religion, but it's almost like a replacement, that it's their replacement for religion. So I'm just, like I said, that's just my only concern. And usually then it gets lumped into atheism or agnosticism or whatever the non-religious terms they like to use.
Yeah, you're talking about getting lumped into like spirituality and that kind of stuff.
Right. So it's like, I think we've had articles before where people just don't get what is religion and what is not religion, or they don't get what atheism really is. So I wonder if there's just that part missing in this equation, that they just lump everybody who doesn't follow a God into atheism, you know, that type of thing.
That's not what I took from this study. I didn't see that.
Right.
Otherwise, you would see a lot more atheists than they were reporting in the study.
possible. I mean, that's the only thing that's floating out in my head right now that could mess up the deal, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm running into an awful lot of people right now who are just identifying themselves as spiritual, but when you talk to them, they don't believe in any kind of a god. You might even be able to throw them into a deist camp, but that's the best you're going to get out of them.
Right.
And they're just people. And religion has no basis in their life whatsoever. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
Right.
Have you seen any stories about a rise in cults or anything like that?
That I haven't seen yet. So we may be on the right track, but then again, no one really recognized some of these things as cults. I mean, it's always too late when they've killed themselves or they've stand up to the ATF or they commit suicide in South America. I mean, I never knew about any of those, Charlie Manson until, I heard about, the murders, the LaBianca murders and Tate and LaBianca murders. I'm sorry. I didn't know about Jim Jones until his group committed suicide. I didn't even know about Heaven's Gate. I knew there were some issues. There were some people who they were freaking out over what was that comet? Hale-Bopp, yeah. Then all of a sudden there's a story about the Heaven's Gate committing suicide. So the scary thing is these cults kind of hide away and you don't find out about them until they do something. They kill somebody or they kill themselves or they decide to do something illegal or whatever that it is. Then we find out, hey, there's this cult. And the only problem is that the cult awareness, I think there's a cult awareness network, and I think but I think that's religious, like a Christian run thing. So, they're going to call whatever they feel like, I'm highly doubtful that they're even, accurate in their assessments.
Yeah, but I'm sure that if we were having hundreds of thousands of people leaving religions and joining cults, or even joining Scientology, somebody'd be doing stories going, holy crap, Scientology is getting huge. You'd think that the Scientologists would be out there going, look at how popular we are. But that's not happening either.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that most of these people are just leaving religion entirely, and they're just being spiritual on their own.
And I can agree with that. I mean, like I said, I haven't seen any stories about cult membership rising or Scientology whatever those fringe groups. I haven't seen anything, so we may be on track here.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. They're 80% of the way to reality once they throw away religion. Now we just have to get them to throw away spirituality and all those crazy beliefs, and they will have returned to reality. And that's a good thing.
That'd be a good thing, yes.
All right. Well, how about your story?
How about my first story here? And it's from the Christian Post. The illusion that seduces and bewitches magicians. Now, this is apparently a blog post, but it just struck me as, just so inane. But here's the story. I have never heard of the magician Dynamo until I read about how he floated alongside a double-decker bus in London recently. I watched the video. Personally, I think it was legit. I believe this was a paranormal event and an authentic example of levitation. But it's not like this sort of thing is completely unheard of today. Whether the levitation is experienced by young girls playing a dangerous occult game at a slumber party, light as a feather, stiff as a board, or by street musicians as shown on YouTube videos, paranormal things happen when people engage in practices that are rooted in sorcery, magic, and witchcraft. Many magicians and other occultists have experienced levitation and various forms of supernatural power. These sorcerers typically cast spells or perform other rituals in an attempt to conjure the power to accomplish these feats. It is becoming more and more commonplace to see such expressions of magical performance. When I saw this, I found an atheist guy, had it on his, I think it was on Facebook, I think it was. And I read this thing and I'm like, oh, this guy, he has no connection to the world at all.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing was, and it keeps reading like that, illusions and magic is all, this sorcery. Dude, these are illusions. Come on, dude.
Yeah, my first thing, the first thing that came to my mind was, seriously? And then was, this guy needs to watch some videos by Penn Jillette. Because Penn and Teller just put out a video this week where they were showing how some of these illusions were done. This guy needs to watch some of the stuff. I mean, I didn't believe that there were really adults who take stage and street magic seriously. This guy's an idiot.
Clearly. I mean, I love a good magic show, but I know it's sleight of hand, and, you know, you're taking advantage of how your brain operates. I mean, you know, like Penn and Teller, The Amazing Randy. I mean, they take this magic and, you know, they show that, you know, we can be duped, we can be fooled, and it's kind of fun. I mean, I have no problem with street magicians making quarters appear and disappear. I mean, some of the stuff is pretty cool. I mean, I wish I knew. I mean, I know some, but, you know, some of the stuff these guys are doing are just incredible. But, you know, this guy's now like, you know, like, this is all real. No, it's illusion, dude. You know, are you people just that? I don't know.
Yeah, these people are just credulous. All right, it's not hard to understand why they believe in a god. Let's go that far.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, did this guy come out of the movie theater after seeing, like, Man of Steel and go, holy shit, there's a guy flying around destroying buildings?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up and watched cartoons, the violent ones, you know, the good old-fashioned ones, you know, the Bugs Bunny, the Three Stooges. I mean, nowadays you can't show that because, you know, it's too violent. But you know what? I knew it was all fake. I mean, it's a cartoon. I mean, I love my cartoons, you know, and I know it's all make-believe. And the Three Stooges, they were actors. These were all stage pranks, you know. Harry Anderson, he was the Judge Stone on Night Court.
Right.
He did the show and he was explaining all these sideshow gags, I guess, where you know, where he sticks a needle through his arm, or the Amazing Jonathan, where he eats a whole thing, a bunch of razor blades, you know, and doesn't slice his insides up, you know.
Right.
It's all illusion, and I don't doubt, you know, this is coming from a Christian site, so, you know, this guy believes in God, and I'm sure in some cases, you know, they have to believe in the opposite, you know, that there's a Satan, demons, and all that, evil spirits and stuff like that. So I can understand maybe some of it, but you know what? He was going after these street magicians. You know, it's like, dude, don't you have a clue? You know,
yeah.
It's like, you know, I know you're a Christian. I know that you're into this stuff. You know, you believe in all this occult stuff, but you know what? These guys aren't doing that kind of stuff. They're using sleight of hand. And I mean, did this guy get scared by one of these guys? You know, when he was a kid, you know what? It floors me. And someone would put that, you know, and he put quite a bit of effort. I mean, it's probably a pretty decent sized article here. And, you know, it's like, come on, dude.
Yeah, well, I mean, this stuff is not new. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, there was this really bizarre, Christian show that used to come on PBS called The Eagle's Nest, with the host guy's name was like Pastor Gary or something. And he used to run around and this is the kind of crap he would spew. I mean, he would do his shows on like Dungeons and Dragons and be going, demons are gonna come and get you. And, you know, he would do his shows on Halloween and it was all real witches and wizards and it wasn't people in costumes, it was demons. And you just sit there and stare at these people and go, what the fuck is in your head, dude? Seriously. What crawled in your head and died and starved your brain? Because you can't be that stupid. You can't be. I refuse to believe that there's anybody on this planet who can wake up in the morning and get dressed on their own who is that goddamn dumb. But these people are out there.
Yeah. And thank God that they're writing and they're getting on the internet and showing how stupid they really are. I'm really hoping that it's this kind of stuff that's killing off religion or helping. He has an imagination, but he has no imagination. You know, it's that.
He has an unrestrained imagination. He doesn't know how to tell the difference between the fantasies going on in his head and reality.
That's very much possible. I mean, I remember the whole Dungeon and Dragon flap, and it's like, and I think that was Pat Robertson was leading that charge, and I'm like, dude, do you even know what the game is?
No, they don't pay any attention. They don't care. They don't give a crap about any of the, they don't, they might actually have to learn something if they actually looked it up.
Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid playing that, I mean, it was great. I mean, I used my imagination, when I started, it was all on graph paper and, and dice, we didn't have even some of the figures or even the video games to go with this. So, it was a chance to use your imagination. You can make up a world, all that kind of stuff, but these guys are like, oh no, it's all about conjuring up demons and playing evil characters. And I'm like, no, no, I never did. No, I mean,
it's like, sorry, I started playing D&D in 1974 and, no.
No.
And the funny thing is at the height of all of this Christian anti-D&D things, and this is back when I was a Christian, going to religious schools and everything, over lunch, me and a bunch of friends used, hang out in the library and play D&D with the fucking pastor. And he used to laugh at that crap going, these people have no goddamn clue what they're talking about.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, that is cool when you got a pastor who will play D&D. It's just, you got these people who, they don't even, well, like with the, the explicit lyrics and Tipper Gore and trying to protect all the children from the nasty words on records. And she did more to promote nasty words on records than anyone else could.
Yeah, because she made a big deal out of it, and more people went out and bought those than ever before. The same thing with the religious, with the Catholic Church and like Last Temptation of Christ, which was a crappy movie and would have just faded away had they not opened their mouths and made it very popular.
Yeah.
So,
I
mean, I think it's our job to go around and take stories like this and, shove them in the face of the religious and make sure they get out there in the public and say, guys, these are the people that you're idolizing. What the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah. These are your voices out in the real world, people. That's and that's what we see, so, I mean, if you want to keep your religion, you better start telling guys like this, to, get back on the Prozac and, chill out for a little bit. Go out and get laid or something, do something just to stop being a jagoff.
Well, yeah, but I mean, these are the true believers, the real crazies who really buy into this stuff. They're part of the 30% who are really religious in this country.
Yeah.
And the more that we expose them as being just completely, whack-a-loon, the better it is, because more people are going to take a look at religion and say, wait a minute, these are the people who really believe this stuff, and these people are nuts. Maybe this is not something we should be involved in.
Exactly.
So.
Definitely.
Hey, it's going to be somebody else who drives more people away from religion. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Let's jump to the next one. Evangelical Christians are pushing hard for immigration reform. They want to throw open the floodgates to millions of potential new bodies that they can use to fill their pews every Sunday. However, they're having a problem convincing many in the GOP, especially in the House, who are still holding out against another nationwide amnesty. A group of Catholic educators sent a letter to the House of Representatives imploring them that we remind you that no human being made in the image of God is illegal. Guys, something tells me you've got no fucking clue what the hell you're talking about. Like that's any surprise!
Right.
Oh my God, these people are stupid! The only reason they care about immigration reform and amnesty is because they want more people coming into their churches. That's their people. That's where they're making their money. It's not the well-to-do people in the U.S. who are sitting in their pews. It's all the poor immigrants from Mexico who have nothing better to do with their lives, who go in, spend their lives there, vote their way, and give them money. Let's be honest. Come on.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, the Catholics, I think, are still pretty strong in South and Central America, in Mexico. So, get him up here, let them foot the bill for the churches and the lawsuits that they're getting. And I kind of got mixed feelings on immigration. And I mean, we are a country of immigrants.
No, we are a country of legal immigrants.
Right, legal immigrants. We came here legally. We got here legally.
We came here either legally or we came here when there was no law restricting us from coming here. There is a law today, guys.
Yeah. So, and I would have no problem if there was some legal way to let these people come here, work, send money home, whatever they do, if there was some way, to get them here, to let them work, pay taxes here. If they want to go back home, they can go back home, whatever. I have no problem with that, people coming in and out. I mean, I think, they've used, excuses like, the terrorists can get in and, that type of thing. But these people are killing themselves crossing a border to get to this country. It says something. One, they know that there's work up here, so they come up here to do that work. And that's probably about it. And
well, the vast majority of illegals that are coming across the border right now are not coming to work. They're coming to get on our welfare, which our fucking government allows them to do. They're coming here to drop anchor babies, which our fucking government allows them to do, so that they have a path to being citizens, so they can get more fucking welfare. The vast majority of people who come here are not coming here to work. The work all dried up. A lot of them went back to Mexico. The ones that are coming across the border right now, they're coming for free health care, free money, free food, free everything. They're coming here for free education for their kids, etc. They're not coming here to do anything for this country. They're coming here to use us as long as we'll allow them to use us.
Yeah, we should be closing those loopholes instead of trying to curtail or do whatever with immigration. Because, Americans can't do that and, go to Mexico and take advantage of them down there. We can't even own property down there.
Oh yeah, Mexico has one of the most stringent immigration policies around. And their government is handing out maps on how to sneak across the border into our country so they can get rid of their poor.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I kind of got some mixed feelings on, and those that are here, that are working, they are paying into the system, except they can't exactly pull out of the system, or at least that's what it was. I'm sure it's all now flip-flopped since the recession. So the ones that I know of that were, I won't say illegal, but I think they were on shaky ground. They live, they rented houses, here in Illinois, you rent a house, someone's paying taxes, so they are paying into, fire and, all the stuff that property taxes pay for in Illinois. I know that other states are going to be different, so don't.
Yeah, but the problem is the property owner would be paying taxes no matter who lived in the house, or if nobody lived in the house. They are paying taxes just because they own the property. It has nothing to do with whoever happens to live there.
But in Illinois, a lot of the services are done through property taxes, gasoline taxes, all that kind of stuff. And these people, those that are here working, they are paying into the system. There are those that are not paying into the system. I'm sure now it's kind of switched because there's really no jobs up here. Actually, a lot of those places that they were working where I live, those places have closed up. So there's no jobs for them, that type of thing. But I want to say that we got to make sure we're making that distinction that there's those that are taking advantage of the system, getting on welfare, doing all this stuff. Those are the ones we really have to close those loopholes that allow them to get the free health care, food stamps, whatever they're getting when they're up here. Close those loopholes instead of trying to stop them at the border. We're not doing it.
Well, we're not even trying to stop them at the border. We're not even making an attempt. They were going to build the wall, which was a dumb idea in the first place because it wasn't done very well. But how much of the wall did they build? A couple 100 miles at best. Then they cut the funding, and now there's a couple 100 miles of wall you can walk around.
Yeah.
Seriously, if you want to stop them at the border, you got to stop them at the border, and that means I'm entirely fine with mining the goddamn border and putting up machine gun nests. You guys are not coming across. If you can make it, seriously, all the way along the border, we're going to have a 2-mile stretch that is heavily mined with automatic machine gun nests, and if you can make it past that, you get your fucking citizenship. And then we go out there once a week and, throw the bodies back across the Rio Grande. Yeah. I'm just sick and goddamn tired of all these whiny liberals who want to make everybody happy. Fuck them.
Yeah. Well, I'm just more leave the border alone. You're not going to stop them. Close up these loopholes, and then let's deal with the real problem. You know, I mean, once those loopholes are closed, there's no reason for them to be coming up here except to work, and let's give them a chance to work here. You know, get them paying into the system, get them paying taxes, get them ability to become citizens. I mean, there's nothing stopping them from becoming U.S. citizens.
They don't want to be U.S. citizens. That's what's stopping them. They don't come here to be U.S. citizens. They come here to make money for a couple of years and then go back to Mexico. They have no interest in this country except, you know, as a teat to suck on.
Right. But that's because there's these loopholes when that's what we should be shutting down. I mean, if there's work up here and you know perfectly well there's plenty of Americans who will not do that work because they believe it's beneath them.
Well, it has nothing to do with being beneath them. It has to do with they're not paying minimum wage. They're not paying what they would have to pay to a legal American citizen.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of people who would go out and actually do the work if they would actually get paid what the law requires. The only reason they're breaking the law and hiring illegals is because they can break the law and hire them at $1 a day or, you know, $10 a day or whatever and not have to worry about covering their health care, not have to worry about treating them right, because let's face it, they can't exactly go to the police if you beat the hell out of them. That's why it's happening. But you get all the liberals who are going, oh no, they're hard workers and all this stuff. No, they're slave labor. That's why you're using them. There's plenty of hard workers out there. And let's face it, most of the jobs that the illegals are doing, like in the agriculture industry, you could probably just automate it and have machines pick them all. And not even need anybody.
True, but I don't know what a migrant farm worker makes in California, or I know that I look like in Washington they've got some setups for them to get schools and stuff like that. I don't know if it's, you know, if they have to be legal or not here in the States. You know, being illegal, they can't go and say, hey, this company's not paying the minimum wage. I mean, I find it hard to think that, you know, if an American went to this company, and it could be a kid or somebody, you know, going through school, they can take a part-time job at some of these, you know, some of these nastier jobs. If they're not getting minimum wage, then the state and the employer who has, you know, they have to, you know, someone's got to say, hey, these guys are not paying minimum wage, or they're not paying the minimum wage by law within the state or within the United States. That's the real problem. The problem is that, yeah, you can bring these illegals, you can pay them less, and they won't complain because they got nowhere to complain to. And they know that. If you're saying they're not coming here to take those jobs, who's taking those jobs? It has to be someone in America. And if, you know, and sure as hell, I don't think any American will want to get paid less than what he's supposed to. Now actually, I think it's coming up here in Illinois. There was a big expose on handicap being underpaid because there's a loophole for that, where some of these developmentally challenged, they give them assembly jobs, and some of them are only getting paid. I think they're only getting paid like $2 or $3 an hour in some cases. And
well, the problem there is they're not only getting paid $2 or $3 an hour. They're still getting SSI and you know, all kinds of payments from the state. They're just actually, these jobs are allowing them to get paid less by the state. They're saving the taxpayers money by allowing them to go out and actually get jobs that they can do for a couple bucks an hour. That way the state can reduce what they're paying them by a couple bucks an hour. So
there are the loopholes. So if there's a loophole for trainees, I think trainees you can pay less. But once after a training period, I don't know what any numbers that have been ever attached to that. I mean, you could be a trainee for the rest of your life and get stuck getting paid less than minimum wage. But someone's going to have to say, hey, wait a minute. We got to force these companies to pay the proper wages. You know, if our minimum wage is $10 an hour or whatever it is now, you can pay a trainee $6 an hour for 2 weeks, and then he has to get paid at the 10. Something really simple, close up any type of loopholes that, because of, you know, for whatever reason, get rid of those loopholes. I would love to see this, you know, if you're part-time, not being, you know, I'd like to see the part-time thing with the health care go away, or at least give them something, even though they're part-time. Kind of going off on tangents here, but, it's like maybe labor reform, just totally redo everything,
Well, we need to redo everything in this country anyway, because it's just gone straight to hell. The problem is that you've got the dumbass Democrats who want to keep bringing illegals over the border because they traditionally vote Democrat. You got the religious fucktards who need the illegals in order to fill their pews and give them money. Now you've got the Republicans who are really just Democrats in disguise, who are trying to appeal to the religious demographic of the illegals. So they're trying to get people up here. And of course they want to give their business buddies cheap labor. So they want to get their, it's just, the government does not give a crap about enforcing the law. We know Obama doesn't give shit one.
Yeah. When someone tries to enforce the laws, it's like, no, you can't.
Yeah, it's like Arizona. Arizona's going, hey guys, you're not enforcing the laws that are on the books. Therefore, we're going to start doing it for you. Oh, you can't do that. It's like, holy shit, you people are idiots. I am so sick of this goddamn government and this ridiculous society that's just saying, what the hell, we can do whatever we want. Screw you all.
Yeah. And, and then they wonder why you get the Minutemen, or what's that bunch?
That was the Minutemen, yeah.
Yeah, the Minutemen. You got that bunch. I mean, I am no fan of these guys, but you won't enforce the laws, so they take it upon themselves, and they go out there they're running around with, rifles and handguns, and they're shooting illegals, as they come across. And it's like, and then you wonder why we have this or Washington's sitting there, well, why is this going on? It's like, dude, don't you even pay attention to what laws you're signing? You don't want to, stop them at the border, so they're going to cross. These people are crossing into people's private property, and, in Texas, I mean, I don't want to be too stereotypical here, but, if you're not the right color or the right person on that guy's property, they're going to shoot you.
Yeah.
And.
Well, no.
Like, and then.
Case in point. Was it yesterday? It was within the last couple of days in San Antonio, Texas. There was a 13-year-old girl who was gang raped by illegal aliens. Has anybody heard about this? Because it's not hitting the news. Why? Because everybody's the wrong damn color. Of course, you're going to hear about Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin because it's a white guy, supposedly a white guy shooting a black guy, but a bunch of brown guys raping. And I don't know what the race of the girl is, and I don't think it matters. But, assuming, let's say, that she's white, a bunch of brown guys raping a white girl, nobody says a damn thing about it. This country is just so fucking stupid at this point. And I bet you they'll give those aliens amnesty. Bets?
I ain't gonna bet. I won't bet on that one. When I was doing research for, my Pearl Harbor show on my podcast, well, they kind of refer to it as the New England elite. It's these Park Avenue women who they sit around drinking tea, and then they start, but then they say, well, isn't it sad that brown people in Texas are being abused, or and it's like almost like these people have no connection to what's really going on. They have never set foot outside of their penthouses in New York to see what's going on in Texas or Arizona. They wouldn't want to. They probably believe that they don't even have to. But that's the kind of stuff, you got these guys that are sitting in air-conditioned offices in Washington, D.C. They believe whatever their lobbyists and their minions who are saying, oh yeah, you gotta support this. You don't want to support, they're telling him what to do. Because they have because again, they don't have any clue to what's happening even in their own district they're representing. I mean, I'm sure that whoever represents those districts along the Rio Grande River, they have no clue to what's going on in their own districts, and knowing that you got wackaloons running around with guns shooting at illegals crossing the border because that's the thing to do.
Well, no, if the government actually did something about the illegals in the first place, they wouldn't have people on the borders with guns because they wouldn't have to.
Right. True. But that's the thing. They just don't have any, there's no connection to what's going on. They have no clue to what's going on outside of their air-conditioned offices.
Right.
They won't look out. I'm assuming they can pick up a newspaper and read it. I mean, that might be iffy on some of these guys. I mean, put all the stories in the world, but it still doesn't faze them much. And I don't like falling into that, oh, well, it's corporate money that's doing all this or whatever. I don't think it's just that. It's just, you got uneducated, or I don't even want to say that. I know I'm not supposed to be nice, or I shouldn't be nice, but I'm going to be nice. It's, cause, you got people who maybe don't understand, what's going on in the neighborhood next to them, or they don't know what's going on in the other side of the state from them. They only want to take care of, their little enclave there in suburbia. So it does, as long as I can keep my 2 cars, 3.5 kids, 2-story house, as long as I can keep that, to hell with, some brown person in Texas, or, yellow person in California, or black person in Florida. I don't care about that as long as I can keep my little enclave. So they happily go about their lives. They don't even care about anything. One of the things I love about traveling for work is I go into these towns, and every town's different. I mean, I'm in Detroit. The town's bankrupt,
No, it's not.
Well,
Judge said they couldn't.
Oh, I haven't saw the news, so.
Yeah,
cool.
Judge says it's unconstitutional for Detroit to declare bankruptcy. They're not allowed. Whether they have money or not, they can't declare bankruptcy, although that's going to get overturned in a higher court, because if there's no money, there's no money, guys. Deal.
Right. But that's been some of the big news here in Detroit. It's been this bankruptcy, and then Chicago, it's been the gangs in the suburbs. I remember Iowa being, it was hog farming. That was the big thing there. North Carolina, it was hog farming. What was big in California, Bakersfield, I think it was the water issue with the San Joaquin Valley, and getting water to the valley and the farmers there. Didn't really spend too much time in Portland, Oregon, so I don't know what was there. Every town had their own little, their concerns, their interests, the drought in Los Angeles, was New York, what was the big thing when I was there? Of course, I want to say hockey, but anyhow, it was every part of this country have what they want the most, and trying to get people on the same wavelength or understanding. I can go home. I come here to the hotel room. I turn on the sink. I'm not worried about the water, but in California, when I was there, this was in the 90s in Los Angeles. I mean, they were saying, try not to use water, no water in restaurants, all that kind of stuff. Conserve water. I mean, at home, I'm on well water. I mean, I can run that 24/7. No one can do anything about it. I mean,
yep, same here.
So trying to convince people, in one part of the country who's got it good versus someone on the other side of the country who doesn't have it so good, trying to convince that, we need to bring them up, or you may have to come down. You're not going to convince someone to come down, and you certainly don't want to be the guy footing the bill to bring someone up. That's the American way, it seems like.
Well, it is today.
Yeah. So yeah, you're going to get this weird, especially like with immigration, you're going to get these disconnected. We want them in here, but we don't want them using our stuff, using our free or our welfare, but we want them up here to work because we don't want to pay them.
But we don't want them up here to work. I mean,
we want them, but we don't want them. That's
well, no, we don't want them for any legitimate purpose. We want them for voting, and we want them for, pew butt warming and all that kind of stuff. But we don't want them for any legitimate purpose. And we don't want to just say, hey, if you don't want to become a U.S. citizen and renounce your citizenship to wherever the hell you came from, don't bother.
Right.
Because, these people all they care about is power. That's all it is in most cases, is they just want warm bodies to give them power. And the sooner we realize that, the better we're all going to be.
I can agree with that.
All right, well, let's go ahead and finish your last story.
Okay, now, I chose this story, and you know what? I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. This is a story from Finland, and I'm going to butcher a whole bunch of names here.
That's all right.
So, I'm
Finnish listeners, please call in and correct him.
Yeah, send them to feedback@mikebowler.com. Don't send it. I'll take the heat for this one. But this was a very excellent story, and I just wanted to, this had to come out. Okay, Ross Sand's comments caused spike in church resignations. Controversial statements from Interior Minister Pavi Rasmussen.
Whatever.
Yeah, led to a larger than usual number of Finns leaving the Finnish Lutheran Church via an online service on Wednesday. On a normal day, fewer than 100 people resign from the church using the EROAKIRKOSTA.FI website.
EIEIO.
Yeah. On Wednesday, the figure was 960 after Christian Democrat leader and Interior Minister Pavi Rasmussen made the controversial speech, including comments comparing abortion to butchery and suggesting people should place the Bible above the law in any situations where they might conflict. Looks like the number jumped from like maybe 100 a day to almost 900 a day after that speech. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. When a Christian opens his mouth and says something ignorant about, I don't know if it was totally ignorant, but you know, it was pretty ignorant.
Oh yeah.
You know, and all of a sudden, all the Lutherans, and I believe that's the official church. I mean, the church actually, and on one of my hangouts, I was talking with there was two guys, Johan and I don't know how to pronounce the other guy's name. Johan is in Sweden. And there's other guys from Finland, and they were explaining basically that the church is actually a taxing body within those countries. So this is tax money that's coming out of their pocket. And another stupid Christian, you know, spotting his mouth off about something he probably doesn't even understand. And my impression is that, again, Europeans and, I mean, imagine Finns and Swedes and they seem to be a lot more rational than Americans. So, I mean, this is kind of nice to see.
Yeah, well, we go right back to look at how much religion is losing. You know, to be really honest, even though it's the official church of Finland, I'm willing to bet that most people don't actually believe it, don't attend any of the churches or any of that stuff.
Right.
I'm sure a lot of these people just went, you know, they probably have just never bothered to leave. But
actually, I think I want to say that might be true. Because if I'm understanding, Erno, I think his name is, I'm sorry, and I know he explains it, but basically, yeah, that's it. They just check off Lutheran Church, and that's where their tax money goes automatic. Now, I guess there's some new rule. Apparently, there's some new rules where they can now bail out of the church and not have to pay those tax. Maybe, I don't know if they still got paid the taxes, but they're just not members. He kind of explained how that all worked over there, so.
Yeah, well, it used to be where if you wanted to leave the church, you had to go and get permission from a priest. And now you just have to fill out a form online and you're gone. So I'm sure they still are paying the same amount of taxes, but maybe by not being a member of the church doesn't get their share of that person's taxes. I don't know how it works out. But.
Yeah, I really don't completely understand it. But he was explaining that it sounded like a lot of them, you know, when they're born, they check on a piece of paper saying, yeah, this is the church I belong or will belong to. But they may never set foot in that church ever.
Right. But yeah, it's more good news, you know.
I don't think we need to go any further.
Yeah, we just keep doing this. You guys are just blowing yourselves out of the water. We don't even need to help. We just need to point and laugh.
Exactly. I love those guys, you know, those Republicans during the presidential election opening their mouths and all the stupidity that came out. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's too late to say, well, what might have happened if they kept their mouths shut. Would we had a closer election, or would Romney have gotten in instead of having the Rick Perrys and the Bachmans and all those others that were just, there was just such levels of stupidity coming out of their mouth. I mean, I generally vote Republican, but I wouldn't vote for any of these knuckleheads. I felt dirty just looking at their names on a ballot. You know, it's like, fuck it, I'm going to take a Democrat ballot and vote that side. You know, it's at least ways they're not getting my vote, you know, type of thing.
Yeah.
But it was like, you know, this, as long as these people keep talking stupid, every time they open their mouth, they're alienating somebody. You know, if it isn't rational people, they're insulting whatever ethnic group or women, you know, about, you know, with the abortion issue, they're offending just by opening their mouths. And here they're doing, and then you got a guy in Finland doing that. So it's like, hey, great, you're our heroes. You're doing the work that we've been trying to do for years. And they've been doing it much more efficiently.
Religion is crazy everywhere. Well, keep up the good work, Finland, and I hope you drive even more people to leave the church officially. I wonder what would happen if the entire country leaves the church. What are the churches going to do then? They'll probably pass a law that says you can't leave the church.
Probably. Who knows? I mean, maybe they'll just say, hey, you know what? Maybe let's listen to the people for a change. Let's just shut this whole thing down.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
You know, but I think the Finns seem to be a lot more sensible people than Americans. So let's take it take it for that. You know, maybe they will do something like that. Who knows?
Well, we can keep our fingers crossed.
Definitely.
All right, well, let's go ahead and jump to the main event.
This is the main event.
Last week we talked a little about American education as part of a news story, and we thought that, especially since we've been doing a lot of religious segments in the main event, that we'd take some time and talk a bit of politics. Clearly, American public education is having problems. Every year, more than 3 million high school students drop out, and statistically, dropouts commit 75% of the crimes in the U.S. and are ineligible for 90% of the decent-paying jobs, meaning they are essentially going to end up on welfare. In inner cities, upwards of 20% of all high school students fail to complete 4 years of school. So what's wrong with American education, and why does this country have such a problem producing functional, educated adults? This is a mess.
Yes. You know, I've been trying to explore this. I'm kind of working on a story for my podcast and it's about education. And there's kind of it's not really a conspiracy, but it's kind of was a scam. I won't go into too many of the gory details, but there's this weird situation where I don't think anybody really, it's like people are all over the map on how we should be educating, who we should be educating, who gets what education. I mean, that's what it's getting down to. How we're going to fund it, who's going to fund it. Do we rely on like in Illinois, schools are paid out of property taxes. Our grade schools, the high schools, the junior college, and the University of Illinois gets tax money. You know, I pay taxes to those schools. And I pay a lot to those schools. Actually, I want to say I was watching my tax bills, and in Illinois there's a cap on how much you can raise taxes without having to go to referendum, which I think is like 1.5%, 2% per year. And the schools have been grabbing that 2% every year. And then they turn around and go for a referendum to get it to like 5 or 6%, because depending on the school district, because since it's coming out of property taxes, the poor districts don't get as much as the richer districts. I mean, you might have heard of, New Trier High School. There's Naperville High Schools. I mean, these are highly affluent neighborhoods. They've got surplus money. They've got more money than they can use. And these schools have been, high schools have been powerhouses in sports, in academic competitions. I mean, there's just excellent schools, but then you got the other ones that are, they don't have the strong tax base, and they're coming up short every year. I mean, there's been a few schools that were in danger of bankruptcy. I forget what schools might have to get a major bailout from the state, but the state's not coming up with their portion, or at least they're not coming up with it on time. So that's putting these schools into all sorts of fits. So they're trying to find ways of making money so they can pay the teachers. And I noticed, like in my school district, we've got a lot of older people who don't want to pay more taxes. So they vote against these referendums. So we got I want to say a mediocre school district that is becoming more and more mediocre, which is driving up our house prices down, because that is a main component to our home values is education. What kind of education your house is located. It all plays out, but no one really understands, if I don't pay into these schools, the schools will suck. No one will want to move in. House prices go down. There's that aspect. Then again in Illinois, they're really fond of unfunded mandates. They're forcing schools to bring in programs like English as a second language. You've got to do all these special health-related, you have to teach about STDs and all the sex education. And there's no money to bring in teachers to teach that. So they leave it to the gym teachers to teach it, type of thing.
Yeah, I think unfunded mandates are a bad idea everywhere. I think in order to pass a law that requires funding, you need to attach a source of funding to it. You need to tell people that we're going to raise your taxes, we're going to take it from X, Y, or Z, and let people decide if they think that the cost is worth the benefit.
So it's like there's this issue between money. I won't go into the gory details, but there are definitely teachers who should not be teaching.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, here in California, we've got lots of teachers who spend all their time. They're not allowed in classrooms because of their misconduct, but the unions won't allow them to be fired, so they spend years sitting either at home or in an empty classroom from 9 to 5, just sitting there getting paid their regular wages because the unions don't care what kind of crimes these people have committed.
Because of the unions, you can't fire these teachers. You can't do anything with them. It's almost like it's imploding on itself. I mean, I hate using implode, but that's what it really sounds like. Then you get, like what's going on in Texas with they can't teach science anymore. They can't teach social studies anymore. It's this convoluted religious bullshit. And the poor, school districts, that buy into the Texas, what books Texas buys because they can get them cheaper or whatever, however they can get them. And so we're basically dumbing our kids down. And why would you want to go to school? Why would you want to sit through a class? I mean, education's always been important. You're not going to get a decent job without a high school diploma. A GED works, but why not get it while you can get it? Where your parents are paying for it, or well, I guess it comes down to your parents, but if you live in an apartment, you pay in, like in Illinois, property taxes, the apartment owner pays that tax. So you've got basically almost free schools, but of course, with the money shortage, you're buying a lot of the supplies the teacher needs to do a class, which I think is kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
And there's this chance to get an education. Maybe it's because you can't just get it by now with just a high school diploma. You got to get maybe a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree. I know about these sports guys, these sports players in high school and college. They didn't learn anything. Most of them they can barely read. They can barely do math. Only because they can run with a football or throw it. They got passing grades so they can play to get onto a professional team, and then college scholarship where, again, they don't learn anything. And then the NFL uses them up, and then next thing you know, they're, robbing people or doing whatever. There's plenty of stories like that, even for high school kids that have been recruited. I mean, there's been a lot of rumors, and actually my brother knows of a guy who went through that. He was a sports star, and my brother worked at the county jail. He was a guard at the county jail, and runs into his classmate who's in lockup. And this was a guy that was a sports superstar. He got recruited to play high school, which was totally illegal and against all the rules, but they were able to bend rules and stuff like that to get him to play football. Well, now the kid's sitting in a jail cell. It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What has happened to our schools? I mean, what are we teaching our kids? I mean, are we teaching them anything?
No, they're not. And if you look at studies, you'll find that they estimate about 43 million Americans who are functionally illiterate, who cannot read or write at an adult level. And let's be honest, if you look at a lot of kids today who think "you" is a word, this number is only going to go up. There are people who simply cannot communicate in proper English. They can't do basic math. They can't read a newspaper. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, with this no child left behind, the school districts are worried about getting those grades up or they get, their funding pulled. So, okay, you're a troubled school. You can't get the grades. So instead of putting money into the school, you take it out. I don't see the logic in that. Whoever came up with that thing, and I didn't like it when it came out. And I thought, whoever came up with this idea, they should have their pensions taken away, put up against the wall, and a bullet in the back of their heads. Because whoever supported that was the most retarded thing anyone has ever done.
Well, the way it was implemented was really, really bad. But to be really honest, I think we can't go back to the way it was before, where they were just passing people along to pass them along, who never learned anything. They were going along because they wanted kids' self-esteem to be high, and they wanted them to stay with their friends. So even if they got Fs in every damn class they took, never turned any homework in, etc., they still passed. That's bullshit. That should never happen. And I think that's why they did the whole No Child Left Behind. And unfortunately, they did it where they just gave the teachers the test and said, here, this is the test they have to pass. So they taught to the test. And that was stupid because they never taught the kids anything. They just taught them how to pass a test.
Right. So give up one for another.
There are ways to do it. The first thing you do is you basically come up with a national curriculum. And I talked about this last week. We need to have a single curriculum it's a basic curriculum that is required in every damn school in the country. Public, private, and home schools. You can't get around it. This is what every single person in this country needs to know. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you want to teach more than this curriculum, you're more than welcome to. But you cannot teach less, and then every goddamn student in this country, if you're a homeschool, private school, whatever, you need to go and be tested every single year, not on a single test that we handed to the teachers, but over the curriculum that you were required to learn. So you walk in there and you have no goddamn clue what's going to be on that test. And every single person in the room might have a different test. That's going to show that these kids have actually absorbed the information. It's not going to be teaching to a test. It's going to say, this is the effectiveness of this teacher. And if a student fails, fuck it. They don't go on. They're in that grade again next year. Or they're taking summer school until they can pass that test. We are going to require that people know the information. And yes, you fucking religious dumb shits. Evolution is going to be on the damn test. You are going to teach evolution whether you fucking like it or not.
You teach science in science. You teach social studies in social studies. You teach religion in religion. That's the way it should be.
Yeah. If you want to teach religion, knock yourself out. I could care less. Teach yourself, do a religion hoedown. But you're not going to stop anything else.
Right. You don't call religion science. You call religion religion. And that's it. I'm kind of leery about tests, though, mainly because I'm an exception. This is purely anecdotal. I mean, this is just me. Apparently, for some reason, I always had trouble with tests. And when they started doing this, when the grade school started doing this, what they did was give you a pre-test, what you understood. And this was in science, and apparently I didn't do too good on the test, so they put me in the lower class. But I was a science junkie. I mean, I had access to science books at home. It blew the teacher's mind. I was the kid who destroyed the curve. There was the one year, I can bring someone on air to prove this. We did a test. It was on geology, where we had to identify, and I forget how many rocks, but it was 100 questions. What the rock was it a rock or mineral? If it was igneous, sedimentary, or metamorphic, and the name of the rock. And I think there was even 5 extra credit questions. I got every one of them right. All 105. The next closest person got 40%. And that was based on what they thought you were supposed to know going into a science class. Here I was, total massacre of, I understood, I understood parts of the heart, I understood all the basic concepts, and I think I know it was in the 8th grade, I really wanted to learn more. I kept wanting to learn more science. I was so into it. So I talked to the head of the science department there this was the grade school, and he hands me this book and says, "Here, give this book a try." And I read through it, and it was awesome. It had all the physics. It had all it was an astronomy, astrophysics book. I mean, it had the the reactions within a star, how photons are generated and how those all worked, and how, or at least at the time they understood everything to work. Spectral classes of stars, what were nebula and the basic, chemical composition, what you should see when you're, and all this kind of stuff. And I take the book back. God, I need to get a copy of this book. And the teacher, this guy goes, "Do you realize this was my graduate master's, book, to get my master's degree in science teaching." And you understand, and he was like, "You understand?" And he started going through the book. He says, and I started opening the book. Yeah, I see, this is cool. I mean, this is, here's our sun. This is how it relates to other stars and, in the mass and the amount of hydrogen to helium ratio and all this stuff. And later on, he was talking to my mom. He says, what, his only regret teaching was that he missed catching me early enough to put me on a science track. That was his only failure in life. The guy was great. I mean, he was Mr. Cliff. He was one of the greatest teachers I've ever had, and I had him for the 1 year. And that was his only failure in teaching, was that I should have been a scientist. And honestly, it was all because of the stupid testing system that they had come up with. I mean, if they didn't have that, if it was like an old traditional ABC, fail, F you fail, you gotta retake the class, or that type of thing, you'd probably be calling me Dr. Mike instead of just Mike. I mean, I could have been whatever. Again, some of the teachers there were also, you had the good teachers, and then you had these terrible ones. I mean, they automatically assumed if you couldn't put a sentence together, you're teaching you noun, verb, and all that kind of stuff in a sentence. But if you get that wrong, it's like, oh, you're an idiot. You're going to be a ditch digger for the rest of your life. That was their attitude.
Yeah.
So my attitude towards school is, let's get rid of these idiot teachers. Get rid of them. Somehow get rid of them. Get a standard curriculum. I agree with a standard curriculum across the country where you're teaching science to science, math to math, none of this religion stuff. If you want to teach religion in the school, you make it an elective as a separate. You teach it separate, but it's not going to be on the test.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily try to say you got to make 80%. All your students have to make 80%, so you keep your funding.
Well, I wouldn't tie funding to it at all. I have no interest in tying funding to it. It just has to be that if the student is going to move on to the next grade, they need to demonstrate that they've learned the things that they had to learn in this grade. Because otherwise, next grade isn't going to be any easier. Nobody's going to slow down for them because you've got this national standardized curriculum that you've got to stick to for the next grade. So
right.
You make it or you do it again till you get it.
Yeah, that I agree too.
My other problem with education in America is the schools are being forced, and you said something about this earlier, but the schools are being forced to do things that they were never intended to do. They're having to raise children because parents are refusing to do it on their own. Parents are refusing to teach sex education. They're refusing to do anything because parents are too damn busy to bother raising their kids. So they're making the schools do it, which takes away all the actual teaching that the schools are supposed to be doing. Self-esteem and all this other bullshit.
I never could get that. I mean, especially sports. I mean, again, when I was going through that, you lose. It's like, okay, good game, guys. You shook hands. Better luck next time. Next time you win, you do, you're just the opposite. You don't gloat. You just say, good, great game, guys, and you move on. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Now you don't want to hurt the kid's feelings that he can't hit a ball. So you gotta make him play t-ball or, it was all that kind of stuff. I mean, when I was in Pee Wee baseball, we actually had a kid, a pitcher that threw the ball at you and you swung and tried to hit it. It's like, I was okay, but I kind of had an interest, but then I kind of lost it after the year because I really sucked at it. We had real strikeouts and, you get disappointed. Okay, I shouldn't have swung at it. It was too high, whatever. You're still kind of learning and you want to do good, but, maybe you're overdoing things and whatever. But now it's like, oh no, we can't have the kid strike out. So let's put up a tee and put the ball and let him hit him off the tee.
And everybody gets a trophy.
Everyone gets the trophy and everyone has done such a fabulous job and everyone gets pizza and, and everyone's happy. It's like, come on, you got to learn to lose. That I think part of some of the problems we see. People don't know how to lose. I mean, everyone can't be winners. I mean, I know we've had our arguments and sometimes, maybe I get a good argument in, you get a good argument in. I'm willing to accept, if I made a bad argument and say, hey, okay, I live and learn,
Yeah.
But some people like, oh, no, that's not right, and, you'll never be right, and I'm always right type of thing. It's like, no, dude, take your loss, rebuild your argument and come back,
Yeah, case in point. Over the last couple of days, I've been having a debate on Google Plus with a guy who's defending Rebecca Watson and her elevator gate thing and all the radical feminism crap. And so everybody on this thing is against him. But he keeps coming back and going, nope, I think she's absolutely positively right, and that's all that matters. And so I finally sat down. I said, look, you have not produced any evidence that you're right. You haven't produced a credible argument that you're right. You just keep saying that you're right. Has it ever occurred to you that you might be wrong? And he turned around and goes, I can't possibly be wrong because I'm right. This guy doesn't understand how not to be right. He doesn't understand how not to win. And that's
Right.
the kind of thing that's coming out of American education right now.
Exactly. It was kind of sad. I come from a family where we're highly competitive and we do like our video games. So one day, this is a while ago, and Red Alert, you could play like multiplayer over network. All my brothers had copies of the game, so we all got together, and there was me, my brother, and then the two nephews. And the one nephew, well, maybe he wasn't used to how we play because we play pretty rough, even in video games we're pretty rough. And he just got wiped out. His little area got wiped out right at the beginning, and he started crying, and it's like he couldn't quite grasp how to lose gracefully. And it was like, and he kind of felt sad for the kid, but now he's grown up and I think he deals with a lot of things a lot better. But, there's some that, they've never been told they're wrong or they can't be wrong. Another funny story, my mom and dad were at it was some kind of dinner with, I think it was some kind of local, like I don't know if it was a Kiwanis or a Rotary or whatever it was. These parents were always, oh yeah, Mike, our kids are so perfect. They don't do anything wrong, and they were going, yeah, a lot like your kids. And, your kids are great, but our kids are better, While they were there at that thing, their kids were playing with fireworks and had been throwing fireworks out a window. I don't know if it was a Roman candle or whatever that caught on the roof, started going off, caught the roof on fire. The house half burnt down. And my mom was like, I had to sit there for hours listening to this lady say how perfect their kids are and hear on the front cover of the newspaper how unperfect they were. But it's like, there's this mindset that my kids are great. My kids can't do anything wrong. The kids believe that they can't do anything wrong. So if I go and, take the candy bar out of the store or break into the car, I'm not doing anything wrong. They have no, concept of right and wrong. And then they start wondering why they're going to jail or getting, always getting harassed. There's consequences to your actions, and they're not teaching that. Nowadays it's pass fail, or even not even fail, it's like pass and sort of pass. I don't know what they do in schools these days. seeing the big F fail, it's like, destroy the kid's life. It's like, no, it's just, you fail, you learn, you look at where you got the questions wrong and you learn from that. I mean, fail is not a fail. I mean, like on The Simpsons, I don't know if there's people like Lisa they get a B on a test and like their whole world collapses.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, my cousins are just like that. Their parents insisted that they get straight A's all the time, no matter what. If they ever got it, I mean, seriously, if they got an A minus, they got grounded. They had to be perfect in everything. They had to be the top of the class in everything. They had their entire life mapped out for them. They were told every second of every day how perfect they were. Right now, they're in their lower 40s. They still live with the parents, or with my uncle, because my aunt died. And they've never had a fucking boyfriend in their life. And they are complete failures because they have no concept of being social. They're fucked up beyond belief because they were taught that they are perfect across the board and they can never be anything less. Now, they're complete failures.
Ouch. That's pretty bad. I mean, that's actually kind of one of my concerns with homeschooling. I mean, that whole can of worms where, it's not just that, the religious have been flocking to homeschooling to push out, to make sure that their kids learn that creationism is the proper, evolution is just a theory, that type of crap. A lot of these people have taken to homeschooling, and there's some very smart people are taking to homeschooling because they don't like the public schools mostly. And in a way, but these kids are not getting social skills. They're not getting the interaction with other kids. They don't get to play with friends. They don't get to, sit in a room and do arts and crafts and stuff like that, along with the learning or play sports. They're stuck in their homes, and a lot of times the parents won't let these kids interact with anybody. I mean, there's those rare cases where I think some districts have set up where homeschool kids can go to school functions or maybe get involved with some sports at some of the schools. But in a sense, there's very little kid to kid reaction. It's all kid to adult interaction.
Right.
So kids can't learn to be kids. They're learning to be adults, be a kid to get to an adult, that seems to me the proper way of doing it. Start off as a kid, become an adult. Don't just try to be an adult while you're a kid.
Yeah. I've seen that happen.
Yeah. I'm kind of the opinion that public schools have failed their students quite a bit. But I think it's more of luck of the draw. If you got into a fairly decent where you got teachers who care about what they're teaching. Because they're not there to make money. The cheaper school districts, teachers are, I think they're in the 20K range in Illinois, I think.
Right.
I think, it's like 20K, I think, for incoming teachers. You get into maybe 30, 40K they've been there for 2, 3, 4 years. But I'm seeing stuff like the athletic director at Morris High School was making $130,000 a year as athletic director. The only person that was making more at $140,000 was the high school district administrator. Everyone else made less than he did.
Yeah.
I think and the closest one was, I think, $60,000. That was another coach. That school district has pumped more money into their athletic program than they have done in their classrooms.
Well, sure, because the athletic program makes some money.
High school?
Even high school, they are selling advertising in the stadium. There's a lot of money to be made there, and so
right.
they'll pay anything.
Except in Illinois, it all goes right back into the sports. It does not go into education. That's Illinois. That's
probably everyone. I'm sure all of these schools, or it goes into the administration. Nope, I'm sure the administration makes money off of it.
Nope, and not in Illinois. Whatever the team makes stays with the team. That is Illinois.
That's kind of silly.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, but then again, I think the administration makes way too much anyway. At my daughter's schools, the school principal always has a brand new BMW. She buys like a new BMW every year. It's like, lady, you're getting paid way the hell too much.
Yeah. The teachers are getting $50,000, the athletic department, $130,000. You know, there's something wrong there. And the athletic department, all it can offer is, they seem to pitch the idea that through the student athlete, they can get into, you know, on as scholarships to other schools. And that's why money is always pumped into those programs. But the money in Illinois never really makes it back into, I imagine something might get back, but I don't think all of it does. It all ends up going into, because see, Morris High School has a stadium. They don't have, you know, it's not just like a playing field. I mean, we're talking a full-blown stadium. It's not domed. There's no roof on it, but maybe seats 10 to 20,000-ish, and parking, the whole thing. And the other sports program, they get the muddy field on the other side of that stadium. Even the other sports cannot use the football stadium. That is one, to me, that's pretty fucked up.
Oh yeah, it is.
But
then again, I don't think that they should even have sports in schools, to be really honest.
I see sports as being, you know, a way to learn teamwork, is the social skills that goes along with working as a team. Of course, granted, the high school I went to, those guys were not a team. They were pretty incompetent, and they all liked to show off. But it's supposed to bring in, you know, teamwork, sportsmanship, how to be graceful losers, graceful winners, you know.
Well, they don't do that.
My biggest problem with some of these sports programs is that they're really taking time away from education. You know, you've got all the sports stars who just get to kind of skate through school. They don't actually have to perform because the teachers are going to keep giving them good grades just to keep them on the team. And they get to walk out of school early all the time to go to games. They get to do all this crap. I'd be fine with it if these were purely extracurricular activities where you had to keep your grades up in order to compete. But that's not how it works for a lot of schools.
Again, my dad was a high school referee, and I've got a lot of those old the rule books. And you know what? Nowadays, I don't know what the rule books read today, but you know what? Some of the stuff I've seen at more recent high school games, if I was a referee, I can shut the game down. I could have shut those games down completely. Just from, you know, over rowdy fans. I can kill that game in a second and have the home team forfeit. And that's how much power those referees have, but they don't, I don't know if they still have that. And my dad has done that. He has shut down a game and had forced a team to forfeit because there was one unruly spectator, and they wouldn't remove him, so he said game over, home team forfeits, win goes to, I forget what team it was, but I seen the report, you know, and you know that, and the referee has that power. I'm wondering if the referees actually have that power in today for high school or college or even professional, because
I doubt it, because even teachers don't have the ability to discipline students anymore.
True.
You know, when I was going to school, if you did something wrong, they'd take you out in the middle of the quad and, you know, whack your ass with a paddle. You didn't do that very often. Today, you can't lay a finger on anybody or you get sued.
Yeah. Teachers are afraid to send a kid down to the office. You know, they won't do any, they can't do anything. They won't do anything. There's got to be something. Oh, my ex-girlfriend, one of her daughters was saying, oh yeah, we mess with the teachers all the time because they can't do anything to us. So we make fun of them. They don't hit them or anything. You know, it's like they just mess with them. I'm like, oh, come on. I mean, if I did some of that stuff you're saying, they did stop the paddling when I went through, but, I would have been in trouble. I mean, I probably would have been kicked out of school for a day or two, and of course I had to deal with mom and dad. You did not want to deal with mom and dad.
Today, nobody cares.
Yeah, but that was my day. You know, you don't get my dad mad.
Yeah. I don't really know what we can do with education. I mean, we have to make some massive changes, but nobody's willing to make those changes because most of the people who benefit from the system being the way that it is are in charge.
Right. It's going to have to be grassroots parents saying, you know what, just trying to figure out what's wrong, get the parents to start see what's wrong. I mean, I'm hardly qualified to lead anything like that, so I don't want to, but there are definitely issues. I think parents should be concerned about what's going to be available for their kids when they get out of high school or college. If more like with Texas and their rules, I'd be very scared that my kids couldn't go, when they leave high school, that they couldn't get into a college because, the education there doesn't meet minimum qualifications to go to a university. I mean, it may be able to get to a Texas university, but if I want to send my kid to I got the money and I can send my kid to an Ivy League or like to an MIT, like an MIT or Caltech or whatever, a real good prominent school. He wants to learn some kind of science, whatever. But they can't because my state has fucked up school requirements. I mean, that may be what needs to be pushed forward. Hey, I want my kid to go to, I'm single, I don't have kids, but I would want my kid to have as best an education he gets so he can get the opportunity to go to a decent school so he can get a decent job.
Yeah, but you have to remember that you're talking about schools where the parents actually give a crap.
And that's what has to happen. The parents have to start giving a crap.
But the schools that have the biggest problems are the ones where the parents don't care. Where they don't give a crap if their kids even go to school. It's free babysitting all day. They could care less if their kids get a job because the kids are going to end up right next to them on the couch getting welfare. They don't care about jobs. They don't care about education. They don't care about anything because they never had an education.
That's probably true. I would say it's pretty close. I mean, everyone always says, I want my kids to have it better than I have it. That's always been a kind of I want the world to be better for my kids. I want my kids to inherit a world better. I want my kids to get a good education, an education that I could never get, so he can succeed and go further.
Doesn't happen in the poor community.
And there's got to be some of those. I mean, you can't just blanketly say that the whole poor community doesn't want their kids to succeed and get out of that poverty cycle.
I can't say everybody, but you have to remember, you go look at like the poor black community, and anybody who gets an education, anybody who wants an education, who wants to get out of the ghetto, they're seen as a race traitor. Don't tell me,
But you know what? You got to take those slings if you want to get out of that mess and get out of that situation.
Oh, sure.
You got to do that. And you know what? I mean, if you want to take the easy road, yeah, there's plenty of room on my couch. I can sit down and watch TV the rest of my life. But if I want to get out of that mess, I gotta pick myself up and make it happen. And if my friends are saying that I'm betraying the race, I'm doing whatever, it's like, fuck them. They're not my friends. They want me to be just like them. I don't want to I won't share a jail cell with them.
Yeah, but
I want a better life. And that's
sure.
That's what's got to have to happen. And, if you get parents that are, I have to believe that somewhere there's a parent there in some poor neighborhood who says, I want my kids to have it better than what I have right now. And I want to find a way to do that. And of course, until they realize it can happen.
The problem is, I don't really know that it can happen. You're talking about a very, very low percentage of people who actually give a crap. The vast majority don't. And 1% of the school population, 1% of the parents are not going to be able to change the school for 99% of the parents who don't give shit one. You can't just magically, wishfully thinking make this happen. It's got to be a concerted effort by the entire community, and the community is not going to do that.
In many cases, I think these people just gave up because the schools, I don't know what schools did to them.
The schools didn't do anything to them. It's not the schools that failed them. It's their culture. Their culture fucked them up royal. And now they're reaping the benefits of being idiots.
whatever prompted them to abandon education.
Well, education actually takes some effort. These people have been taught since day one that they're going to spend their life on welfare or in prison, where they get free food and all that. Most of them want to be in prison. If you look at the black community, blacks represent the majority of dropouts in ghetto neighborhoods. And of those, statistics shows that 60% of the dropout blacks end up in prison. That's what they want. They want to be in prison. They want to be dealing drugs. They want to be doing all this stuff where they don't have to actually work for anything. School's hard. You actually have to put in some effort.
Exactly. And, I can agree with that. It's just that there's got to be a point where, you got to get a parent and you got to get a kid that's going to say, hey, I don't want this. I don't want to go to prison. I don't want to leave. I don't want that life. And until that happens, it's going to be the same old cycle. I mean, I'm not going to go into this story, but, I've seen it so many times where it seems like they have this dream, but when the dream is presented to them, say, hey, here's an opportunity. I mean, come work here. I can teach you. I can do whatever. And then it's like, oh no, I can't do that. It's like they're breaking some kind of rule. And I'm like, you're not serious, are you? I mean, this is an opportunity. I can teach you to be a designer. You can make twice as much as what you're making now. And then she goes, well, but I don't want to make twice as much. And it's like, why not? She's like, because I don't. There's something happened to these people that it arrested them. Their development arrested, and they can't think beyond, well, if I make more money, yeah, I can afford a better place or do whatever. But, it's like, I don't know if it's because it's more risk. I don't know if they're just afraid or, it's like,
a lot of them have been raised since birth. They've been indoctrinated to think that white people owe them a living and that, they don't have to work for a living. It's just owed to them.
Right.
That's, and we can talk all day about parents who want their children to do well and children who want to do well. Those aren't the problem. The problem are the majority of them who don't care and who, they basically couldn't give a damn.
And it's again, then now you're talking about the true believer. Again, that the one that won't give up this, and they're going to be stuck where they're at, whether they like it or not.
And then they'll be on welfare, and we're going to be funding them for the rest of their lives. And then it's going to happen over and over and over with every generation.
Right. Until that cycle gets broken, and until we can figure out a way to break that cycle, it ain't going to go away. And you can complain about it all you want, but we're going to have these people who are going to take advantage of the system. They know the system. Their parents taught them the system. They're going to teach their kids the system, and they're not going to break out of it because they know they can, they know how to work it. And until we can figure out a way to convince them this is not the way you want to live, and there's really no incentive. There's no incentive to get them off welfare.
Well, of course not, because the liberals are out there going, oh, we feel so bad for the poor. Let's make it easier to remain poor.
Right. And then when someone comes along and says, well, you know what? You can be poor for a few years, but after that, you're going to have to get a job. And then, of course, you don't want that. You don't want that to happen. And because they'll get jobs and then maybe they'll quit, whatever. Well, whatever the deal was. I think Wisconsin tried something like that where, yeah, you can go on to relief for 3 years, but after 3 years, you basically have to get a job or have to find a job within 3 years or you'll automatically lose your benefits. I believe that was that Tommy Thompson, who I think he was a Republican, went to Washington and kind of disappeared, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's getting off topic though.
Right. Well, that was the idea was, to not have the welfare there 24/7 for the rest of their lives. It was, you go on, you got a few years to get your act together. 3 years was pretty good. I mean, you can go through it, get a 2-year degree and, because there was a lot of programs. I mean, Illinois, I know, had programs where like displaced workers, assembly guys coming, old, or steel workers, assembly guys, they can learn new skills. So there was a program they can get a 2-year degree, learn a new skill, and then they can, that was usually within a year, and between a year and or 2 years, they can learn a new skill and then get a better job when they come out. So there's all those opportunities out there. It's just, you gotta find some kind of the crowbar, I guess, or the chisel to break this chain of, dependency on government handouts. And until that happens, until we get a Congress or get whoever to say, it ends today, we're going to do this, you can stay on, you can get these benefits, these benefits will run out in 1 year, whatever it takes to break that cycle. Until that happens, you're going to have this continuous, the parents teaching their kids, and those kids are going to teach their kids how to work the system, live off of it, won't have to lift a finger, maybe spend a year or two in jail, whatever it is, that's a life they want to live.
But that's really the problem. All of this is just interconnected. You've got the people who are on welfare who don't give a crap and they don't want to go out and get jobs, so they don't think they need an education. You got all kinds of people with entitlement issues. A lot of them have been taught by the schools. You've got all these people who have all these issues, and you're never going to be able to fix any of them until you find a way to fix all of them. And the politicians have no interest in fixing any of them because they get votes by promising people free shit. That's the way the fucking country works anymore. So we're not really going to fix education until we fix welfare, and we're not going to fix welfare until we fix education, and there's nobody that we're going to send to Washington who's going to give a shit about either one.
Yeah.
Until that breaks, nothing's going to change.
And it's not going to change in education either.
Probably not until the United States recognizes we're losing technology jobs. I mean, those are the only jobs that are left. And, if we're dumbing ourselves down, who's going to pick up the slack? China?
India.
India. All those countries are picking up the slack. Someone better wake up.
See, there's just so many problems here. If you look at the statistics, for example, from 1960 to 1980, our supply of college graduates increased about 4% per year. But since then, that increase has been about half as fast. And the net effect is we're rapidly moving, and this is kind of the problem that all the liberals whine about, is that you've got two Americas. You've got the wealthy elite, the people who actually give a crap and get an education, and the growing underclass that lacks the skills to succeed. But they don't want those people to have those skills. It's really ridiculous.
Oh, I'd like to think I have faith in somebody doing something right, but no one's proved me right yet.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up for the week, I wanted to throw out some statistics for people who, want to see how bad it really is. According to the World Economic Forum, the United States is ranked 48th in the world in math and science education. On international math tests, we rank near the bottom of industrialized countries. We're in the middle for science and reading, but we used to have one of the top percentages in high school and college graduates, and now we're in the basement, and it's just getting worse. Nothing is going to change until the country decides to change. This is not something that can be done by a couple of individuals or a couple of parents who actually care about their kids, especially in the ghettos, especially in the lower income schools where this is really a massive problem. Nothing is going to change until the people decide to change, or until we as a nation decide we're changing them whether they fucking well like it or not. And that's something we really, really have to do. Now, we've talked about this for a long, long time, and we've barely even scratched the surface, and it's something that we're going to revisit again, I'm sure. But this is not something that can be done by talking about it. This is something that can be done only by actually doing something. And it's about damn time that we as a people decide enough is enough, and fuck you people, you're done.
Sure. That sounds good.
Well, we did it again. Another show down and a million more to come. Don't forget to check us out on Stitcher Radio. If you go to our website and click on the Stitcher logo on the right side, you'll be magically transported there. Until next week, everybody take care. You've been listening to the Bitchspot Report podcast with your hosts, Cephus and Mike. You can follow us on Twitter respectively at Bitchspot1 or at JDRipper1962. Please visit our website at report.jdragononline.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/TheBspotReport. We're also on Google+, iTunes, and YouTube. Those links are on our website. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach us via email at report@jdragononline.com. Comments, ideas, and suggestions are always welcome. We'll be back next week with another fun and fact-filled episode. Please tune in again.